To be here in our second broadcast, and another wonderful afternoon here in Jerusalem. We were up late last night listening to the election results, and now we're over the elections here in Israel, and we'll have a new government hopefully in a few weeks. But I thought that there would be no better place to begin our broadcast than here at the site of the grave site of the father of modern Zionism, Theodor Herzl, who of course was a big believer in democracy within the Zionist movement. So
very much so.
So here we are, and I'm going to allow you to give us some explanations here about Herzl, about his grave right here on Mount Herzl in Jerusalem.
It's a real pleasure having you today after a very interesting evening. We will know better in the coming days what will be the new leadership in Israel, but we are on Herzl footpath. Herzl was a young gentleman. He was born in Hungary in 1860. He was brought up in German. He went to German-speaking school, and after graduating from university, he started working as a journalist for an Austrian paper. This paper sent him to Paris, and there really starts the story. This is the story of a modern, can we say, Reform Jew? I wouldn't say so, but he was not a practicing man, but he was deeply Jewish in the way a person can be at the end of the 19th century, when human rights are now giving you the ability to be a real equal rights citizen of your own country. And this happened in Germany, this happened in France, and Herzl was a modern Jew, and he was to show the modern society he was working for, that is fully devoted for the integration and modern absorption of Jewish people in this country. Life was very interesting. This man was dealing with art, music. The end of the 19th century is a very interesting period in Europe, modernization and human rights. But we face, at the end of the 19th century, a terrible story. And this is the story of Dreyfus, Captain Dreyfus, a French officer.
Alfred Dreyfus.
Alfred Dreyfus. He was among the first Jewish officers in the French army after Jews were given full equal right in that country. And he served as a captain at the French army headquarters, and we are talking 20 years after terrible defeat facing Germany. In those days, French lost Alsace and Lorraine area to the German. Animosity was very, very strong, and all of a sudden we hear about a traitor among the French society. Someone publishes that document, secret documents dealing with France security, were sold or given to Germany. This was a terrible story, breakout lines, but within a very short time we hear a new story. The name of Alfred Dreyfus is given in public, and people say, this captain, this Jewish captain, is the man who betrayed our homeland. And from that very moment starts a terrible story for Dreyfus and for the French Jewry, and globally for Jewish emancipation in Europe. Herzl, who was living in Paris in those days, was broken. Of course, he was convinced that Alfred Dreyfus had nothing to do with the story, and this was fake and fabricated for some other reasons we don't really know to this very day. Someone was probably jealous of his access to that senior position at the French army headquarters. But what Herzl heard was something he would never expect. He was convinced that no more lies, anti-Semitism of that kind will be published. After a week, all papers, France in general, was divided into two parts. Pro-Dreyfus, against Dreyfus. Put it a different way. Did the Jew betray or not? Mm-hmm. And from this very moment, Herzl started to think about what is happening to the Jewish people. It seems from what we read that he understands that Jewish people face anti-Semitism because a permanent pattern, which is you come to a new country, you are poor, you live in slums area, people welcome you, but expect you to stay where you are. And they hardly, some people around you, hardly accept to see you develop and reach the stairs of social and economical and even political mobility. And this is something which raises probably racism, jealousy, anti-Semitism. Herzl wrote a book. He wrote several books. As a matter of fact, he was no more dealing with his regular journalistic life. No more going to concerts and try new theater spots, but only dealing with the vision of what should be the life of Jewish people. And he wrote this book, The Jewish State. And he tells the Jewish people, the people of Israel, he tells them, we should have a homeland, a Jewish homeland. This is the only way to avoid such problems. We can be a minority anywhere in the world, but we have to be sure that in case of trouble, we have a place where we can go back to. A place which belongs to us. No one can take it from us. And in a way, amazingly, this was partially the topic of yesterday's election in Israel. So we choose the proper time. As a matter of fact, let me tell you, Alan, why we decided to come today. We decided to come today because, as we can see around us, we are now preparing the ceremony for Israel independence. This will occur on April 22nd. In the Israeli army, we don't train so much marching, so we need that month to train and learn how to give a decent ceremony. The day of independence of Israel is starting here up on Mount Herzl Piazza. As you can see, we built these tribunes around us. Head of states, army commanders, secret service, police, all diplomats, guests from all over are coming. And the ceremony will start here when 12 candles will be lit here up on Mount Herzl. Every year, a different idea is leading the choice of the 12th person we will have to light this candle. Last year, for instance, 12 Israeli women from each and every sector in the Israeli society, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Bedouin, people coming from Russian immigration, Ethiopian immigration, American, and others, scientists, people who did for the country. And from here, the ceremony will open Day of Independence, which is a beautiful, a wonderful, happy day. People are meeting, picnicking, people have fun, and people are happy to have a strong and safe homeland where to stay.
Now maybe we should mention in this respect that the Day of Independence comes right after the Day of Remembrance.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Day of Remembrance will be a part of our tour today, because we cannot talk about Herzl and mention Herzl's vision without mentioning in the same time the terrible suffering Jewish people have been through. Suffering when Jewish people had no homeland, since we were expelled and scattered all over the world in the year 70 after Christ by the Romans. And Jewish people have been through terrible dramas, and we will mention it. And we cannot avoid mentioning what has happened to those who gave their life for the state of Israel, for us, for giving us the ability to live here peacefully, safely, and respected among the nations. So we'll stay by here. A few words about Herzl. You could see a few minutes ago, kids. Schools are coming here, and they put some stones, as we used to do in the Jewish tradition. We came, as the Bible says, from the soil back to soil. And kids are coming, and they thank Herzl for modernizing this biblical vision we always had, for turning it into practical steps and telling us how to do it. How do you do it? How do people that were used to be a minority, restricted to very specific jobs, forbidden to act in many fields, how these people can, within quite a short while, turn that dream into reality and give a safe haven for suffering people. Of course, and we understand Jewish people can live anywhere around the world, and we are happy to know that they are living in each and every spot around Earth. But today, we know for sure that if something happens somewhere, there is a place where to go. And this is what we are going to deal with today, if it's okay with you.
Sure, absolutely.
So let's view a little bit. These children's schools are coming here. Let's have a look at them. And of course, I would like to remind all our guests viewing us, watching at this program all around the world, they can send their question, SMS, Facebook, whatever. You send your question and we will answer on real time. Mm-hmm. So I wish you a wonderful visit today. You see, some people like to even sign their name, the school. You see, Brenner, one of famous Jewish poet. Brenner School, Givatayim, 8th grade. Hello, Shalom Yeladim. Hello. We are pleased to see you. Why did you come here today? Mike.
Hi, Mike.
He's filming right over there.
Yeah.
Good.
Come on. No? Yeah. Good English. Let's go on. Don't worry.
I don't. So.
What's your name?
Hili.
Hili. Where do you come from?
From the kibbutz Mashabeh Sadeh.
Kibbutz Mashabeh Sadeh.
Yeah.
Oh, I have spent a long time there. Very nice, lovely place in the Negev. Few minutes from David Ben Gurion. One of the few leaders not buried here today. Mm-hmm. Yes. So you come to visit Mount Herzl.
What I need to say?
Why did you come here? With the school?
Yeah.
With the kibbutz?
No, with the school.
With the school, regional school?
Yeah.
In the Negev. You speak good English as well? Yeah.
Thanks.
What's your name?
My name is Ron.
Ron, we don't hear you so well. The camera is there. Okay. Here is Alan from Neighborhood.
What you're doing here?
We are now broadcasting to the States. 10 million people are watching us in the US from New York. to the west right now on real time. Yes, yes. For
I'm an actress.
maybe more, but this is
no.
בסדר גמור. This is morning. ודאי, נו, מה חשבת? שאני תייר? She's surprised. I said, my guest does speak Hebrew. Yes, my country. Speak Hebrew, okay? Exactly the same as you do. So, why did you come here? Come closer to me.
It's a kind of a project.
Kind of a project
yeah.
for
For my school.
for your school.
Yes.
Yeah, about
Okay.
We needed to talk
people.
about Hannah Senesh and Nissim Guinea
Okay.
and
Yuval Ariel, the
Yeah.
two Yuval Ariel. We're gonna be there.
yes.
Oh, okay.
And what about
They
Yes,
are
of
big
course.
people and they did a lot of things.
Yes.
They did a lot of good things for Israel.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say to our people in America? Jewish and non-Jewish people, they're watching you.
You amazing people.
Amazing people. Maybe we come live here. Okay.
Yes, come live here.
So we watch at you. If you want to say something, come closer to the grave. Please feel free to do so.
אני שמתי אבן כבר קודם.
יופי.
ירושלים,
לא הבאתי מה זה.
אנחנו בשידור חי.
שידור חי?
So we are still watching at Herzl grave, and visitors will come in the coming 3 weeks. Thousands of visitors. These are younger kids in the schools. The 11th grade, they will come here before they go to the Holocaust Memorial, to Yad Vashem, and this will be the main preparation tour on their way to Poland, as in Israel, most of our kids go for 1 week to even 12 days to visit Poland and to understand what has happened on that land 75 years ago. So we will be back, yes.
Maybe one of the questions, we haven't gotten any, but I'll ask you, why is Herzl buried here? He died in Europe.
Yes.
He died at a very young age, and his body was reinterred here,
Absolutely.
along with his wife and his children.
The state of Israel had to pay tribute to the man who gave the recipe, who wrote the book, and really taught us the vision, how to build a state, how to claim the land, purchase land, how to political lobby, how to convince what are our rights, and even what kind of society we want to have. What is the type of ethics and morality. This state has to be different from any other state. It has to follow Jewish ethics, and it has to be tolerant to each and every other minority living here. The state of Israel has to be a place of example for the nations. And this is why we decided in 1951 to bring his body in here on top of this barren hill. This was a barren hill. To bury him here, plant few cedar trees around, and from the year 1952 we started national ceremonies. Much later, after the family, part of the family was brought here, one daughter was killed in the Holocaust, and she could not be buried here. And Mount Herzl then has been developed in the concept of Theodor Herzl's book. And this is what we will try to understand today. Because Herzl says to us, you Jewish people have only two options. Two options, no gray zones. You either support the existence of a Jewish state and build yourself and your children a place of your own, with your language, with your culture, with your history, if you decide to remain that cosmic Jew as a minority, you are terribly vulnerable. In 2 minutes, the soldiers will be back to train marching. I suggest we look at them for a while, and I will develop on the way this very interesting question you have been asking together. Let's move backwards so we don't want to be in the camera line. We will stand there with our team and we will look at this ceremony. By the way, the gentleman commanding this ceremony is probably the oldest colonel in the Israeli army. He is 83 years old. If you listen to him and you will hear him, you will notice he has a very typical Yemenite accent. And when you say Yemenite accent in Israel, you mean one thing. He is he's talking the genuine Hebrew. The Yemen Jewish community left after the first temple destruction. 2,600 years ago, they left the land of Israel. They were expelled by Mesopotamian invaders, Iraq today, and they ended up in Sana'a and Aden Valley in Yemen. What is very interesting is that this community never intermarried with any other local community. They lived together as several tribes in Yemen. And in the year 1882, when the Zionist movement we are just mentioning now, when Herzl was 22, and Arthur Rupin, as a Zionist messenger, came to Yemen and said to this Jewish group, guys, we are building the Jewish homeland. The first wave of immigration came here, walking from Yemen to Israel, literally walking from Florida to upper state New York. A long way in the desert. Many of them died on the way, but they settled here and started to build together with immigrants from Russia, from Poland, Galicia, Litva, Lithuanian Jews, Romanian, later on German, and literally from all over Europe. Jewish people, wave after wave, came to build the state of Israel. Of course, the state of Israel has been a haven for Jewish people in danger. In some period of our history, those who could flee to Western Europe, to Belgium, France, or to the US, they did it. But Jewish people to this very day, and pay attention what has happened in France in the last 2 months, and please pay attention to what has happened in Russia, 1991, after the Berlin Wall tumbled down, and a terrible wave of anti-Semitism by ultra-right-wing Russian against the Jews started, and Israel received 1,200,000 people within a very short period. Let's have a look at these soldiers.
Mudou o bench.
כן?
זה? הוא גם...
אנחנו נברך אותו קודם, אני כל שנה הולך אליו. For your information, all these young men, young women are officers in the Israeli army. The commanding officers are carrying their own unit's flag, and sergeants are marching in front. As you can see, the flags are still tied up. They are wrapped into plastic because they just back from laundry, and you can see the kids are training as soldiers. This is Israel, and I'm so happy for our guests in America watching us this morning in the States. By the way, Alan, as you can see on the floor, we have just repaved this plaza, as you can see, and the black lines and brown lines were put here because, as a matter of fact, combat people in the Israeli army don't learn marching. So we needed to put signs on the floor, so it looks...
You give him a little help.
A little help, a little help. Listen, this is not the US Marine Corps, but this is Israel. And think about it, look at the soldier faces. We have here Jewish soldiers, Christian soldiers, Muslim soldiers, Druze soldiers. We have people with no denomination, we have immigrants. The blue, dark blue uniform, this is Israeli police and special forces. We have people from all our society. Please remember that in Israel we have a draft, and the service in our army is compulsory. Therefore, the situation here is a bit different than from what you know in the US after Vietnam War, when draft has been cancelled and you are dealing with a professional force. Yeah, it has been
I
a
can
good...
tell you, it may not look like much right now, but I've been at these ceremonies, and after a month of marching, they do really a fantastic job. And as you watch it from the tribunes, you can really see different shapes that are related in some way to Jewish history that they make as they march.
You're right.
It's a really
So
very
they are
impressive.
now first is teaching them how to march. We came at the first week of that training. Next week they will start with the shapes, and this will be much more difficult. By the way, this colonel is tough with them. Tough, but as a good daddy. He's a tough, but he has heart, and he really took care that they receive all service, brought them even sun cream, because as you know, Jerusalem is over 2,500 feet above sea level. He brought here tents, there's coffee, there is tea, and these soldiers, each of them has been chosen within his unit for being among the best person of the unit. You need to be combining two things. One, to be a good soldier, and second, to be able to march.
You need rhythm.
Yeah.
So it's an honor to be here, not a
Of course,
punishment.
it is an honor, and the families will come. The families will come to watch their son and daughters. Look at, you are now actually viewing these men and women. They are each lieutenant, captains. It is a real honor. And the families will video and keep this and send it to their friend. Yes, it is a honor. You know, we mentioned a few minutes ago anti-Semitism. Unfortunately, this is something still existing. So, can there be a better pride that you are free on your own land and you can carry the flag of your own identity proudly with Jewish music, Jewish tunes, and all this being done with major respect for the other. So as we are watching the soldiers here, you can see, please pay attention at the uniforms. This is the working uniform. This is not the uniform they will use during the real parade. At this very moment, each one will carry the specific uniform of its unit. But you can look at the boots, and you can see that we have brown, reddish brown boots and black boots. Black boots are all over the Israeli forces, Navy, Air Force and ground forces. The red boots are paratrooping units and the brigade in charge of West Bank protection. This unit has an historical heritage of RICO unit from the old days in the 1970s, what we call the attrition war. These were the days we were facing big problems at the Egyptian border, and in the same period Yasser Arafat just created PLO organization. His idea was to take over and conquer both Jordan and Israel, and from Jordan his men were launching terror attack. This was the modern days beginning of terror when Palestinians crossed the border between Jordan and Israel and attacked Jewish homes, Jewish vehicles on the roads of Israel, in the cities of Jerusalem, Tel Aviv and small villages. In these days, special RICO unit belonging to the paratrooper brigades were created, and their mission was to ambush these terrorists before they reach the target. And this is where Israel literally started to learn that terrible topic, which is now, of course, a major international issue, terror. But in those days, this was unknown. Terrorizing the population, this was something unknown. The classical wars we knew till the end of the 60s were soldiers facing soldiers. So we've been a long way through this. Then, as you remember probably, in the year 70, King Hussein of Jordan expelled the armed Palestinian out of his own country, Jordan, and they moved and they fled to Lebanon. Lebanon was a free Arab country, a democracy. It was easy to access the place. The army there was not very strong, and within a short while, 3 to 4 years, Arafat succeeded to base an army force at the southern part of Lebanon, which opened a new front line with Israel, creating new tensions. And from that very day, we had to develop this type of units. Today we have moved to a period that literally Israel is not facing anymore a war with a state, but only different type of terrorism Shall it be the Islamic Army, Daesh, Jabhat al-Nusra? These are groups in the Golan Heights fighting Hezbollah, the Iranian militia supporting President Assad, or African Al-Qaeda groups sneaking to Sinai and trying to attack Israel from the peaceful border of Egyptian-Israeli line, which is a peaceful border since the year 1979, when peace was signed. You remember those days, President Carter?
Absolutely.
And peace was signed with Egypt. This was unbelievable. I can tell you that in those days, being a soldier, I was in a vehicle back from Sinai to my home in Jerusalem, and I heard on the radio in that car President Sadat landing in Israel. And I could not believe this is real. I did not understand what kind of humor is this satirical show. And the driver said, no, you're not, because you're in the army, are disconnected, you are in the desert, ambushing every night, you don't listen to the views. In those days, no internet. But President Sadat literally landed. He is right now in Ben Gurion, and he came to sign peace. Menachem Begin invited him. I mentioned Menachem Begin. Oh, there's a lot to say today. Maybe it could happen we come back to this place. I mentioned Menachem Begin, but Menachem Begin and Ben Gurion, the two most important leaders of Israel, are the two leaders not buried in Mount Herzl. We're going to meet many people. I know our guests and people watching us from all over the US would like to view these beautiful girls and men marching, but I invite you now to walk through Mount Herzl together with me and meet other stories here in Mount Herzl. I would like to read some questions. Did we receive? Oh, someone say thanks for the pictures. Oh, you enjoy. I'm very happy. Okay, next. So I remind you that you can text us. You can text us questions. You can text us questions, and we are here to answer you. We're gonna walk now, because I would like to walk with you in this beautiful. Let's walk together, Alan. Salute our soldiers. We are proud of you. That.
So even though
I would introduce him to you, but he's very busy.
He's too busy right now.
This is so interesting. You see, we're going to walk, but you see this 83 years old colonel. He knows every soldier. After one day training here, he already knows them and correcting them. He wants them to give the best they can. Sharabi, that's a classic Yemenite, beautiful name.
So this is basically the pantheon of Israel, right?
It is our national pantheon, absolutely. But as you will see, this is a different type of pantheon. It has nothing to do with this British Anglo-Saxon type of pantheons we know all over the UK, New Zealand, Anzac Battalion, Australia, or the US. We will mention Arlington today. We will mention Arlington. This is Israel. This is the Jewish story. So it's a bit different because we combine here life and death, vision and past. We walk. I would like to invite you to view beautiful views of Western Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a hilly city. The city was built on 27 hills. It is today 20% larger than Paris, for instance, in size, of course, not in population. And the city is Jerusalem stone built. Jerusalem stone. Jerusalem stone is a local limestone. We have it literally everywhere. Everywhere. Look at this. This is the tree, which comes right after the first tree, showing up, bursting out after winter, which is the almond tree, Tu Bishvat, the almond tree. And then comes the Klil HaChoresh, which is the Judean tree. Judean tree is this beautiful purple flowers tree that will last for 3 weeks. By summer, Mount Herzl is turning yellowish, mimosas and beautiful little flowers. It's a bit windy. If it turns too windy, I will switch off the mic. So we are viewing the government hill and the convention center of Jerusalem. From other spots we will have very nice. So this is the central bank of Israel and hotels, as we can see. This used to be the first Hilton Hotel, which is now the highest building in town, the Holiday Inn Hotel. We will discover Jerusalem from many angles. Let's visit Mount Herzl.